The morning sun filtered through the thin curtains of the small apartment in downtown Chicago. Emily stood in the tiny kitchen, her hands deftly preparing breakfast for her son, Jack. The apartment was modest, with second-hand furniture and peeling wallpaper, but it was filled with warmth and love. "Mom, do you think we'll see any dogs in the park today?" Jack asked, his eyes wide with curiosity as he sat at the wobbly kitchen table. "Maybe, sweetheart," Emily replied, smiling. "Dogs love the park just as much as you do." Jack grinned, his excitement palpable. He was a bright, inquisitive 5-year-old who found joy in the simplest things. Emily cherished these moments with him, even though the weight of their situation often bore down heavily on her. After breakfast, Emily helped Jack get ready for school. His small backpack was worn, but he wore it proudly. They left the apartment, the chilly morning air nipping at their faces as they walked hand in hand through the bustling streets. "Why is the sky blue, Mom?" Jack asked, looking up in wonder. Emily explained patiently about the atmosphere and the scattering of sunlight, appreciating her son's endless curiosity. "It's like a big rainbow that can't decide on one color," she concluded. Jack giggled, satisfied with her answer. They reached the school, and Emily knelt to hug him tightly. "Have a great day, Jack. I'll see you this afternoon." "Bye, Mum," Jack waved as he ran towards the school entrance. Emily watched him go, her heart swelling with love and pride. As soon as he was out of sight, she hurried to her usual spot at the busy intersection. Her small stand of candies was already set up. She greeted familiar faces with a tired but genuine smile, hoping for a good day of sales. "Morning, Emily," said Mr. Thompson, a regular customer. "How's Jack?" "He's doing well, thank you," Emily replied, handing over a packet of caramel sweets, still full of questions about the world. Mr. Thompson chuckled, leaving a few extra coins as a tip. Emily watched him go, grateful for his kindness. She spent the next few hours calling out to drivers, trying to catch their attention in the sea of traffic. It was exhausting work, and the pay was meager, but it was all she had to support herself and Jack. Around noon, Emily took a brief break, sitting on the edge of the sidewalk. She sipped from a bottle of water, her thoughts drifting to Jack. She hoped he was having a good day at school, making friends and learning new things. "Hey, Emily," called out Sarah, another street vendor. "How's it going?" "Same as always," Emily sighed, "just trying to make it through the day." Sarah nodded sympathetically. "Hang in there, you're doing great." Emily smiled, though the strain was evident in her eyes. She resumed her spot at the intersection, the hours dragging on as she sold her candies one by one. By mid-afternoon, her feet were aching and her spirit was weary, but she forced herself to keep going. Finally, it was time to pick up Jack. Emily packed up her stand and hurried to the school, her heart lifting as she spotted him waiting by the gate. "Mom, guess what I learned today?" Jack exclaimed, running into her arms. "Tell me all about it," Emily said, her fatigue momentarily forgotten. Jack chattered excitedly about his day as they walked home. His stories were a bright spot in her otherwise challenging life, and she cherished every word. They returned to their cozy apartment where Emily prepared a simple dinner. Jack helped set the table, his small hands carefully placing utensils and napkins. As they ate, Emily listened to Jack's tales of school and friends, her heart full despite the hardships. After dinner, they cuddled on the worn-out sofa, reading a book together until Jack's eyes grew heavy. "Mum, when I grow up, I want to be brave and strong like the heroes in the stories," Jack murmured, his voice sleepy. "And you will be, my love," Emily whispered, kissing his forehead. "You're already my little hero." She tucked him into bed, turning off the light and standing by the door for a moment, watching him sleep. The sun barely peeking through the windows, casting a gentle glow over the modest furnishings. Emily was in the kitchen, humming softly as she prepared breakfast, while Jack played with his toy cars on the living room floor. "Mom, can we go to the park after school today?" Jack asked, looking up at her with hopeful eyes. "We'll see, Jack," Emily replied, smiling. "It depends on how the day goes." As they settled down for breakfast, a loud knock on the door interrupted their routine. Emily's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't expecting anyone. She opened the door to find a stern-looking man standing there, clipboard in hand. "Ms. Emily Thompson?" the man asked, his tone flat and professional. "Yes, that's me," Emily replied, a knot forming in her stomach. "I'm James from the Property Management Office. I'm here to inform you that you have 2 days to vacate the premises due to unpaid rent." Emily's face drained of color. "What? There must be some mistake. I've been trying to catch up on the rent. Can we please have more time?" James shook his head, unfazed. "I'm sorry, but the orders are clear. You need to leave by the end of the second day. If you fail to do so, legal action will be taken." "Please, I just need a little more time," Emily pleaded, her voice cracking. "I have a young son. We have nowhere else to go." James remained impassive. "I'm just doing my job, ma'am. You have 2 days." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Emily standing in the doorway, feeling like the ground had been pulled out from under her. Jack looked up from his breakfast, sensing his mother's distress. "Mom, what's wrong?" Emily forced a smile, trying to keep her composure. "Nothing, sweetheart. Finish your breakfast. We need to get you to school." The rest of the morning passed in a blur. Emily dropped Jack off at school, assuring him everything would be fine. But as soon as he was out of sight, she broke down, tears streaming down her face. She spent the next few hours calling friends, knocking on neighbors' doors, hoping someone could offer a solution, but each attempt ended in disappointment. By the time she picked Jack up from school, Emily had barely made any progress. She forced another smile as Jack ran to her, full of stories about his day. "Mum, guess what we did in class today?" he exclaimed, oblivious to the turmoil swirling around them. "Tell me all about it," Emily said, holding his hand tightly as they walked home. As they entered their apartment, the reality of their situation hit her again. She had no choice but to start packing. Jack watched her silently for a while, then finally asked, "Mum, are we going somewhere?" Emily swallowed hard, trying to find the right words. "Yes, Jack. We need to leave here and find a new place to stay." "Why?" Jack's eyes were wide with confusion. "Because we have to, sweetie. But don't worry, I'll find us a place. I promise." The next 2 days were a whirlwind of packing and phone calls. The final morning came all too quickly. As Emily zipped up the last suitcase, there was another knock on the door. This time, it was James, back to ensure they were leaving. "Is everything ready?" he asked, his tone as cold as before. Emily nodded, her heart heavy. "Yes, we're ready." With a final glance around the apartment that had been their home, Emily took Jack's hand and they stepped out into an uncertain future. Jack clung to her, his small face pressed against her side, seeking comfort. "Mum, where are we going?" he whispered. "We'll figure it out, Jack." "Together," Emily replied, her voice steady, despite the fear gnawing at her insides. As they walked down the street, Emily kept her head high, determined to find a way to keep her promise to Jack. Emily and Jack's footsteps echoed in the cold, empty streets as they wandered, searching for a safe place to rest. It had only been a day since they were forced out of their apartment, but it already felt like an eternity. The park was empty, its usual charm lost in the dim evening light. Emily led Jack to a secluded bench, wrapping her arms around him to keep him warm. "Mom, I'm cold," Jack whispered, his small body shivering against the harsh wind. "I know, honey. We'll be okay," Emily murmured, her voice strained. She had to stay strong for him, even though fear gnawed at her insides. The park offered little protection, but it was better than the open streets. As night fell, Emily watched over Jack, who had finally drifted off to sleep in her lap. She couldn't sleep, her mind racing with worries about their future. Every sound made her jump, every shadow felt like a threat. She tightened her grip on Jack, determined to keep him safe. The next day was no better. They wandered the city looking for food and shelter. Emily tried to find work, but no one was hiring. By evening, they found themselves under a bridge, huddled together for warmth. The concrete was hard and unyielding, and the noise from the traffic above was relentless. "Mom, I'm hungry," Jack said softly, his eyes tired and dull. "I know, Jack. I'll find us something to eat," Emily said, trying to keep the desperation out of her voice. She left him with their few belongings and went in search of food. A nearby diner took pity on her and gave her some leftover sandwiches. She hurried back to Jack, relieved to find him still safe. "Here, eat this," she said, handing him a sandwich. He ate eagerly, and Emily watched him with a mixture of relief and sadness. This wasn't the life she wanted for him, but it was all she could provide right now. As they settled in for another cold night, Emily couldn't shake the feeling of hopelessness, but she had to keep going for Jack's sake. The following evening, while searching for a safer place to stay, Emily and Jack stumbled upon a small group of people handing out blankets and hot drinks in a park. Among them was Mike, a local journalist with a passion for helping the homeless. He noticed Emily and Jack huddled together and approached them. "Hi, I'm Mike. You guys need a blanket?" he asked, offering them a warm, woolen blanket. "Yes, thank you," Emily said, accepting it gratefully. She wrapped it around Jack, who looked up at Mike with curious eyes. "What's your name, little man?" Mike asked, crouching down to Jack's level. "Jack," he replied, shyly. Mike looked at Emily, sensing the desperation in her eyes. "Do you have a place to stay tonight?" Emily shook her head. "No, we've been on the streets since we got evicted." Mike's heart sank. He had seen many people in tough situations, but something about Emily and Jack's plight struck a chord with him. "Listen, I have a small place nearby. It's not much, but it's warm, and you'll be safe there for the night." Emily hesitated, wary of trusting a stranger, but the exhaustion and fear for Jack's safety outweighed her doubts. "Thank you. We really appreciate it." They followed Mike to his modest apartment. It was a small, one-bedroom place, but it was warm and safe. Mike set up a makeshift bed for Jack on the couch and offered Emily a hot cup of tea. "So, what's your story?" Mike asked gently, sitting across from Emily as Jack dozed off on the couch. Emily took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly around the warm mug. She told Mike about their eviction, the struggle to make ends meet, and the past few nights on the streets. Mike listened intently, his expression growing more determined with every word. "You don't deserve this. No one does," he said firmly. "I'm going to help you. We'll start by getting your story out there. People need to know what's happening." Emily felt a mix of gratitude and apprehension. "Thank you, Mike. But will it really make a difference?" Mike nodded confidently. "Yes, it will. Trust me. We'll get through this together." Mike's apartment was a small, cozy haven compared to the harsh streets Emily and Jack had been on. The living room, with its warm lighting and soft furniture, offered a sense of security they hadn't felt in days. Emily sat on the couch, Jack nestled beside her, while Mike set up his camera and microphone. "Okay, let's start from the beginning," Mike said, adjusting the camera. "Just talk to me like you would with a friend." Emily took a deep breath, her hands clutching a cup of tea. "We lived in a small apartment in downtown Chicago. It wasn't much, but it was home. I worked hard selling candies at intersections, trying to make enough to get by." Jack looked up at her, his eyes wide with curiosity and trust. "Mom worked really hard," he added, his voice small but clear. Mike nodded, encouraging them to continue. "What happened next?" "Things got tough," Emily said, her voice steady but tinged with sadness. "Sales were slow, and I fell behind on rent. Then one morning, James from the property management showed up and gave us 2 days to leave. Just like that. No mercy." Jack's small hand found Emily's, squeezing it for reassurance. "I didn't understand why we had to leave. It was scary." Mike's eyes softened, but he kept his focus. "How did you cope after being evicted?" Emily glanced at Jack, then back at Mike. "We tried to find shelter wherever we could. Parks, under bridges, anywhere that felt safe. It was cold and dangerous. Jack kept asking if we'd find a home, and all I could do was promise we'd be okay." Mike looked at Jack. "How did you feel, Jack?" Jack shrugged, looking down at his lap. "I was scared, but Mom always made me feel better." Mike captured every word, every emotion. He knew their story would resonate with many. "How did you manage day to day?" "I begged for work, anything to get us by," Emily replied. "People gave us food sometimes, and that helped. Then we met you, and things started to change." Mike smiled, though it was tinged with sadness. "I'm glad I found you. Your story needs to be heard. People need to understand the struggles you face." He spent the next hour recording, asking questions that delved deep into their daily battles and small victories. Emily spoke of her determination to keep Jack safe, the constant fear, and the rare moments of kindness that kept them going. Jack talked about missing school, his friends, and how much he loved his mum. "She always makes sure I'm okay even when she's sad." When the interview was over, Mike turned off the camera and sat back. "Thank you for sharing this. It's going to make a difference, I promise." Emily smiled, the first genuine smile in days. "Thank you, Mike. It means a lot." Mike spent the next few days editing the footage, crafting their story into a powerful video. He wrote an article to accompany it, detailing their eviction struggles and the resilience Emily showed in protecting Jack. Finally, he was ready. The video Mike posted quickly went viral. Within hours, it had thousands of views, shares, and comments. Emily and Jack sat in Mike's living room, watching the reactions pour in. Emily's heart pounded with a mix of anxiety and hope. "Look, Mum, people are saying they want to help us," Jack exclaimed, his eyes wide with excitement. Emily smiled, squeezing his hand. "I know, sweetheart. It's amazing." Mike glanced up from his laptop, a satisfied smile on his face. "This is just the beginning. We'll get you the help you need." Meanwhile, in a luxurious apartment across town, Carter sat at his desk, browsing through his social media feed. He stumbled upon Mike's video and started watching it out of curiosity. As Emily and Jack's story unfolded on the screen, Carter felt a strange sense of familiarity. He paused the video, staring at Jack's face. The boy reminded him so much of his late son, Alex, who had passed away several years ago. The resemblance was uncanny. Carter's heart raced and his mind filled with questions. "Carter, you okay?" his assistant James asked, noticing the change in his demeanor. Carter shook his head, trying to clear his thoughts. "Jimmy, I need you to look into something for me. Find out everything you can about this woman, Emily, and her son, Jack." Jimmy nodded, sensing the urgency in Carter's voice. "I'll get right on it." Back at Mike's apartment, the flood of support continued. Donations, offers of housing, and messages of encouragement filled their inbox. Emily couldn't believe the generosity of strangers. She felt a weight lifting off her shoulders for the first time in weeks. "This is incredible, Mike. I can't thank you enough," Emily said, her voice choked with emotion. "You don't have to thank me," Mike replied, his eyes warm. "People are inherently good. They just need to know where to direct their kindness." As the days passed, Jimmy diligently gathered information on Emily and Jack. He discovered that Emily had been married to Alex, Carter's estranged son. Alex had never mentioned his family to Emily, and after his death, she had been left to fend for herself and Jack. Jimmy returned to Carter with the information. "Sir, it turns out that Emily was married to your son, Alex. Jack is your grandson." Carter's face went pale. The revelation hit him like a tidal wave. He had missed out on so much, and now his grandson was living on the streets. Determination set in. He had to make things right. "Jimmy, contact Mike and arrange a meeting with Emily and Jack. I need to see them," Carter said, his voice resolute. Emily was both nervous and hopeful when Mike told her about the meeting with Carter. She didn't know what to expect, but hoped it would bring more stability to their lives. Mike sat with Emily and Jack in a cozy corner of the cafe, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mixing with the murmur of conversation around them. Emily sipped her tea, her mind racing. Mike had told her about Carter's interest in helping. "Mom, do you think this man can really help us?" Jack asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Emily forced a smile. "I hope so, Jack. We'll find out soon." The cafe door swung open, and Carter walked in, his eyes scanning the room until they landed on Emily and Jack. He approached with a hesitant smile, his hands trembling slightly as he extended one to Emily. "Hello, Emily, Jack. I'm Carter," he said, his voice steady but filled with an undercurrent of emotion. Emily shook his hand, feeling a strange mix of curiosity and suspicion. "Thank you for meeting with us." Carter took a seat, glancing at Mike before focusing on Emily and Jack. "I've heard your story, and I want to help. But there's more you need to know." Emily frowned, her grip on Jack's hand tightening. "What do you mean?" Carter took a deep breath. "Emily, Jack is my grandson. Alex was my son." The words hung in the air, heavy and shocking. Emily's eyes widened and a cold fury washed over her. "Your son?" she echoed, her voice trembling with anger. "Do you mean the same son you abandoned and cut off?" Carter's face fell, the weight of guilt and regret evident. "Yes, and I regret it every day. I made mistakes, terrible mistakes. I was too focused on my business, too blind to what really mattered." Emily's eyes narrowed. "You have no idea what Alex went through. He was a good man, a loving husband and father, and you just left him." Carter's eyes filled with tears. "I know, and I can't undo the past, but I want to make amends. I want to help you and Jack. Please let me try." Emily shook her head, her anger mixing with years of pain and loss. "You think you can just walk back into our lives and fix everything with money and apologies? It's not that simple." "I know it's not," Carter said, his voice breaking. "But I have to try. For Alex, for Jack, and for you, I need to make this right as much as I can." Emily stared at him, the raw sincerity in his eyes starting to break through her anger. She glanced at Jack, who was watching the exchange with wide, confused eyes. "Mom?" Jack's voice was small, uncertain. "Is he really Grandpa?" Emily's heart ached at the look on her son's face. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "Yes, Jack, he is." Carter reached out, his hand trembling. "Jack, I'm so sorry for everything. I want to be part of your life, if you'll let me." Jack looked up at Emily, seeking her guidance. Emily's eyes softened as she met Carter's gaze. "We'll listen, Carter, but understand this. Trust isn't given easily. You have a lot to prove." Carter nodded, relief and determination in his eyes. "I understand, and I won't let you down." The meeting continued with Carter explaining his plans to support them, not just financially, but also emotionally. Emily remained cautious, but she could see the pain in Carter's eyes, the genuine regret for the years lost. Emily and Jack settled into their new apartment, a place filled with hope and new beginnings. The space was modest but comfortable, a stark contrast to the uncertainty they had faced on the streets. For the first time in months, Emily felt a sense of stability. Jack, adjusting to his new school, was excited about making friends and learning in a safe environment. Emily watched him thrive, his laughter filling their home. It was a sound she had missed dearly. One evening, as they sat around the dinner table, Emily decided to share an idea that had been brewing in her mind. "Jack, Mike, I've been thinking, what if I start a candy shop? I've always loved making sweets, and it could be a way to support us long-term." Mike nodded thoughtfully. "That's a great idea, Emily. You have the skills, and there's definitely a market for it. Plus, it's something you enjoy." Jack's eyes lit up. "A candy shop, Mum? That would be amazing. You make the best candies." Emily smiled, feeling encouraged by their enthusiasm. The next day, she shared her idea with Carter during one of their meetings. Carter had been actively involved in community support programs, trying to make amends for his past business practices. "Carter, I have an idea I'd like to discuss," Emily began. "I want to open a candy shop. It's something I'm passionate about, and I think it could provide a stable future for Jack and me." Carter listened intently, a thoughtful expression on his face. "Emily, that's a wonderful idea. I believe in supporting people's dreams, especially after everything you've been through. I'd be happy to help you get started." With Carter's financial support and Mike's assistance, Emily began planning her candy shop. They found a small storefront in a bustling neighborhood, perfect for attracting customers. The community, already invested in Emily and Jack's story, rallied around her. Volunteers helped renovate the space, and local businesses offered advice and support. Emily worked tirelessly, pouring her heart into every detail. Jack loved helping out, especially with taste-testing new candy recipes. The shop, Emily's Sweet Treats, became a labor of love for both of them. As the opening day approached, Emily felt a mix of excitement and nerves. The shop was ready, filled with colorful jars of candies, each one made with care. The community turned out in full force to support her. Emily stood outside her new candy shop, taking a deep breath. The sign above the door read, "Emily's Sweet Haven," and the sight filled her with a mix of pride and nervous anticipation. The shop, located in a bustling part of town, was the culmination of months of hard work and community support. "Ready, Mom?" Jack asked, his eyes shining with excitement. "Ready as I'll ever be," Emily replied, smiling down at him. She turned the key and opened the door, welcoming the first customers into the warm, inviting space. The interior of the shop was cozy and cheerful, with shelves lined with colorful jars of candies and a counter displaying freshly made sweets. The aroma of caramel and chocolate filled the air, creating an irresistible draw for passers-by. Carter was among the first to enter, his expression a mix of pride and satisfaction. "Emily, this place looks fantastic. You've done an amazing job." "Thank you, Carter. I couldn't have done it without your support," Emily said, genuinely grateful. Mike arrived shortly after, camera in hand, ready to document the grand opening. "Emily, how do you feel?" he asked, capturing the moment. "Nervous but excited," Emily admitted. "This shop means a new beginning for Jack and me." As the day went on, the shop filled with customers. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers who had followed their story came by to show their support. The community's response was overwhelming, and Emily felt a deep sense of gratitude. "Mum, look, we have so many customers," Jack said, his eyes wide with amazement. Emily laughed, her heart swelling with joy. "I see that, Jack. It's incredible." Throughout the day, Jack helped his mother behind the counter, learning the ropes of running a business. He handed out samples, chatted with customers, and even made a few sales. His enthusiasm was infectious, and Emily couldn't have been prouder. Carter watched from the side, feeling a sense of redemption. His efforts to make amends were paying off, not just for Emily and Jack, but for the community as well. He knew there was still a long way to go, but moments like these made it all worthwhile. "Emily, you're an inspiration," a customer said, shaking her hand. "Your story has touched so many lives." "Thank you," Emily replied, her voice steady. "It's been a difficult journey, but the support of this community has made all the difference." Mike, ever the storyteller, continued to share updates on social media, highlighting the success of the shop and the positive changes in the community. His posts garnered more attention, bringing in even more customers and supporters. As evening fell, the shop finally began to quiet down. Emily looked around, taking in the sight of the shelves nearly empty and the satisfied smiles of her last few customers. "We did it, Jack," she said, pulling him into a hug. "We really did it." "I'm so proud of you, Mom," Jack said, his voice muffled against her shoulder. Carter and Mike joined them, both beaming with pride. "This is just the beginning, Emily," Mike said. "You're going to do great things. And we'll be here to support you every step of the way," Carter added, his tone sincere. Emily nodded, feeling a sense of peace and optimism she hadn't experienced in a long time. "Thank you, both of you, for everything." The success of Emily's Sweet Haven was more than just a personal triumph. It symbolized the power of resilience, community, and the possibility of redemption. Emily and Jack had found a new home and a new purpose, surrounded by people who believed in them. As they locked up the shop for the night, Emily looked down at Jack, her heart full. "Let's go home, Jack. We have a lot to look forward to." Running Emily's Sweet Haven quickly became a daily routine for Emily and Jack. The initial excitement of the grand opening faded as the realities of maintaining a business set in. Emily found herself overwhelmed with the demands of running the shop, balancing finances, and ensuring the quality of her products remained high. "Mum, we have a lot of orders for the weekend," Jack said one evening, his voice tinged with concern. "How are we going to manage it all?" Emily sighed, rubbing her temples. "We'll have to work late and start early, Jack. It's going to be tough, but we can do it." Competition in the bustling area was fierce. New candy stores and bakeries seemed to pop up overnight, each offering something unique. Emily noticed a drop in foot traffic and sales, which added to her stress. Bills began to pile up, and the cost of ingredients steadily increased. One afternoon, Carter stopped by the shop. He could see the exhaustion in Emily's eyes. "Emily, how are things going?" Emily forced a smile. "It's been challenging, Carter. Business isn't as steady as it was initially, and costs are rising." Carter nodded, understanding the struggles. "Remember, you're not alone in this. We'll figure it out together." Jack, too, was feeling the pressure. Between school and helping at the shop, he barely had time for himself. One evening, he confessed to Emily, "Mom, I'm finding it hard to keep up with my homework and the shop." Emily pulled him into a hug. "I know, Jack. Let's find a way to balance things better. Your education is important." Mike, ever the supportive friend, continued to document their journey. He noticed the strain on both Emily and Jack and decided to step in more actively. "Emily, let's brainstorm some new strategies. Maybe we can introduce some special events or promotions to draw more customers." The next day they sat down together, discussing various ideas. "How about a candy-making workshop for kids?" Mike suggested. "It could attract families and generate some buzz." Emily's eyes lit up. "That's a great idea, Mike. Let's plan it out." Carter also pitched in, using his connections to help spread the word. He organized a community event to promote local businesses, including Emily's Sweet Haven. The extra publicity was just what they needed. Despite the challenges, Emily's determination never wavered. She began experimenting with new recipes and sought feedback from her loyal customers. Slowly but surely, the changes started to pay off. The candy-making workshops became a hit, drawing families and boosting sales. Jack, inspired by his mother's resilience, found ways to manage his time better. He started using a planner to organize his schoolwork and shop responsibilities. "Mom, look at this," he said proudly one evening, showing her his well-organized schedule. "I think this will help." Emily smiled, feeling a surge of pride. "You're amazing, Jack. Thank you for helping and working so hard." Carter and Mike continued to be pillars of support. They checked in regularly, offering advice and encouragement. "You're doing great, Emily," Carter said one day. "Remember, every business faces tough times. It's your perseverance that makes the difference." Mike nodded in agreement. "And your community is here for you. You've built something special, and people recognize that." With their help, Emily launched a social media campaign showcasing the behind-the-scenes efforts at the shop and sharing customer testimonials. The response was positive, bringing in new customers and rekindling interest. As the days turned into weeks, the shop began to stabilize. Emily and Jack found their rhythm, balancing work and school more effectively. Emily stood behind the counter of Emily's Sweet Haven, watching as customers filled the shop, chatting and enjoying the candies she had worked so hard to perfect. The once struggling business had now become a beloved fixture in the community, drawing in both locals and tourists alike. The space was warm and inviting, filled with the comforting aroma of caramel and chocolate. Jack was by her side, helping a customer pick out their favorite treats. His confidence had grown immensely, and he beamed with pride as he worked. "Mom, can I wrap this for Mr. Thompson?" he asked, holding up a bag of assorted sweets. "Of course, Jack. You're doing a great job," Emily replied, her heart swelling with pride. She marveled at how far they had come since those difficult days on the streets. Carter walked in, his presence always bringing a sense of reassurance. "Emily, the shop looks fantastic. The community loves what you've done here." "Thank you, Carter. We couldn't have done it without your support," Emily said, genuinely grateful. Mike arrived shortly after, his camera in hand. as usual. Emily, the story of your shop's success has inspired so many people. I can't wait to share the latest updates. Emily smiled. I'm glad, Mike. It's been a long journey, but we're finally in a good place. The shop had become more than just a business. It was a symbol of resilience and community support. Emily and Jack had also settled into their new apartment, a cozy space filled with warmth and happiness. The walls were adorned with photos capturing their journey, reminding them of how far they had come. One evening, as they sat down for dinner in their new home, Jack looked around and said, "Mom, I love our new home. It's the best place we've ever lived." Emily nodded, her eyes shining with tears of joy. Me too, Jack. We've worked hard to get here, and I'm so proud of us. Carter and Mike often joined them for dinner, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. To new beginnings and continued success, Carter toasted one evening, raising his glass. To family and friends, Emily added, clinking her glass with theirs. Mike captured the moment, knowing it was one of many that symbolized the hope and perseverance they had all shared. Emily, your story has shown that with the right support and determination, anything is possible. As the weeks turned into months, Emily's sweet haven continued to thrive. Emily expanded her product line, introduced new flavors, and even started offering baking classes for children. The shop became a hub for the community, a place where people gathered to share stories and enjoy sweet treats. Jack excelled in school, his confidence and happiness shining through in everything he did. He often helped his mother after school, learning the ins and outs of running a business. "Mum, one day I want to have my own shop too," he said with determination. "And you will, Jack. You'll do amazing things," Emily replied, her voice full of pride. Carter continued to support Emily and Jack, but he also focused on broader community efforts. He launched programs to help other struggling families, using his resources and influence to make a positive impact. His past mistakes weighed less heavily on him now, replaced by a sense of purpose and fulfillment. Mike, ever the storyteller, continued to document their journey. He shared stories of hope, resilience, and community, using his platform to inspire others. Emily, your story is just one of many, but it's a powerful reminder of what we can achieve when we come together, he said during one of his visits. As the chapter drew to a close, Emily, Jack, Carter, and Mike stood together in the shop, surrounded by friends and community members. They had faced numerous challenges, but their perseverance and support for one another had led them to a place of success and happiness. "Here's to the future," Emily said, raising her glass in a toast. "May it be filled with hope, love, and endless possibilities." The journey had been long and arduous, but it had brought them closer together and led them to a brighter, happier future. They knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, stronger and more united than ever before.